Hello guys. It's been a while since we had a little update. I figured I can just, give you a quick overview of what I've been doing. Um, yeah, let's just dive right into it. So I think most people are on holiday right now, but due to the airline strike in Scandinavia, there's no vacation for me. I was actually supposed to go to India this year, so it's really pissed me off that they managed to do that. 2 years of COVID and then great. But yeah, so let's see. It was the server example. Yeah. So the last bit of code that I needed to write was the code generator for Ragnarok. Um, and this is not, a single isolated thing. It never is. You have dependencies, and oh yeah, when you do something here, you also have to do something there. So it's been a bit back and forth. But now it's working. So if you haven't sort of understood what the Ragnarok stuff is all about, it's essentially a message protocol builder. So if you have a mobile application, for example, that you write in QTX, or you have a website and a backend server, both of them are written in QTX, then it's nice to be able to send proper JSON messages between them without having to deal with all the formatting and oh yeah, the string has to be base64 encoded, and oh, I need to send binary data, and then suddenly that's the thing, and it does all of that for you. But one thing is sending messages. Another thing is uh, when you have a service that, for example, have 20 or 30 messages that you need to support. That's a lot of work to do that manually, and you can't wing it. You can't, just uh, ship off some text stuff and then, well, yeah, I guess you can, but it would be a mess and also extremely difficult to maintain. So that's where this, the protocol generator comes in, and it allows you to uh, define your own messages. Okay, uh, maybe not call that message one. Maybe call that message three, for example. Then fields. You can add as many fields as you like. Yeah, and then of course you can set the data type. Okay, we want that one to be string. We want that one to be a binary field. We want that one to be an int32. So it's a lot easier to sit down and think, oh yeah, I need uh, these messages to come across, which essentially is remote procedure calls, because you would accept the message on the server, do something, and ship a result back or a response back. And this is also something that Ragnarok simplifies. It keeps track of the messages that you've sent, so that it knows that when a specific response comes back, it knows where in your code the handler is. So when you send a message, you also ship the return the result handler as a parameter. So all of that is sort of dealt with. Um, the challenge has been, to have a code gen that was, fast and generated, clean code, which we now have. So we just generated the headers earlier, but finally now we have, working code. So yeah, so that's the good part. You will see that whenever you have a Ragnarok file and you click build, it generates a file with the same name except with a Pascal extension, which is the source code that is generated for for your messages, for your RRP protocol. And this is going to be really handy. It might not seem obvious now, but when you start having especially if you have a large application that you have sort of split into 4 or 5 running services that cooperate and all of that, all of that stuff. Then suddenly having the same message format between all the services, especially also if you have like a master service and then you have separate columns with child services. so that all the routing goes through the master. It needs to know how to address basically what our desktop system is doing. Um, so each service needs to recognize that, oh, this message is for me, and it does that by registering and stuff like that. But yeah, I'm going to go through all of this later. But yeah, that's done. So the only thing I need to do now is to yeah, I need to use the template I made yesterday. The injection code is already there, so I just need to activate it. Then uh, whenever it generates this, it will also check the users clause in your project unit and see, okay, have I been added? If it has been added, it will simply skip it. If it hasn't, it will inject itself so that the project will compile. Yeah, so that's basically it. It's almost strange to actually have arrived here because we've been grinding this for so long. It's like the biggest problem is actually knowing when to stop because it's endless. You can create, oh yeah, I need a graphics editor. Oh, I need be able to import, 10 different file formats or something like that. You can keep on going forever. And that's really been the difficult part, and just what is it that we need for version 1. But now we have that. So we have now, I guess we can call it, we have a working model. The infrastructure, the IDE, the runtime library, the form designer, the protocol designer, all of that, the package system, the attributes, blah, 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 all the stuff that sort of glues it together. All of that is now done and is implemented. So now comes the much longer task, well, not much longer, but um, the much longer task of sort of thinking where should we go for version 1.1, 1.2. So, but research and development for this version is now over, officially over. So we're done with that. The only thing we're going to do, in the next couple of weeks is polish. That means whenever we see something that, oh, that wasn't quite right. For example, when I added a message here, it started its counter on 1. That's a bit sloppy. It should actually check if that message exists. Stuff like that. It's small but extremely important details that just need to work. So all of that stuff, whenever you see something, get it written down. I'll put it into my project management website. Uh, collect as many tickets as possible, and yeah, just keep on grinding until there's no more tickets, and then we have a release. Uh, I'm going to download Inno setup as well because we need to start working on the installer, but that's something I can do after this update. So I just want to get this out now. It's been way too many disturbances, so just push it out. Um, but yeah, it's cool that it's taking shape. I must admit, it has taken a lot longer than I even imagined that it would take. But it's at the same time, I think we have actually saved a lot of time as well. For example, the protocol designer. Um, I actually spent over a month handwriting messages for the desktop system. That was exhausting. The same code over and over again, and you couldn't really, copy and paste because every message was unique. And God, that was terrible. So when we say that this is done, version 1.0, then I can finally jump back into the desktop code. And part of the architecture of T application is sort of specifically designed for the desktop stuff. That wasn't the case with Smart Mobile Studio, which was really, well, not difficult, but it used more resources than it really needed to. Divs inside of divs inside of divs when all you really needed was one div. So it becomes slower when you start bloating the code like that, or bloating the document object model. So I think that when we can put this to bed and I can just focus on the desktop, that it won't really take that long because we've already spent quite a lot of time making the different elements that we need for the desktop. You know, the menu system, for example, the ability to allocate display regions so that you know you have the screen, so to speak, in the RTL. If you look at the application, so it has a display, and inside of that, it has another div called View, which deals with showing the actual forms or backgrounds, um, and you can sort of allocate horizontal slices so that we can have like a toolbar on the side without having to worry that it messes up, you know, the icon management for the desktop. If you still don't get why the desktop matters, and I do understand why it's not, you know, immediately, oh yeah, that's cool. Uh, it matters because there's a whole market for this, actually two markets. One is the NAS, you know, the NAS market, creating your own server system, so to speak. Another market is the router market. If you go out and buy, you know, a cheap Wi-Fi router, chances are that the web interface is going to be crap. You know, it's just a static website. That's all it is. And now we actually have the choice. We can actually offer and say that, hey, if you use this system, you get a full desktop, you get icons, you get windows, you get all that stuff. You can run. You also have development tools. You can write applications to run on this system. So that's a leg up if you compare that to the other systems. I think the Synology system, the Synology NAS, uh, they actually you can actually buy a license to sort of do R&D on that or create your own products powered by the Synology system, and it costs a fortune. I mean, it's talking like, you know, $10,000 just to be able to write code for it, and they don't have any, you know, development tools. It's just sitting in Visual Studio Code and JavaScript, etc. And you know the complexity is quite high. So something like this, when you have an IDE, you have, you know, the windowed applications, you have different application models, all of that is set up. You have drag and drop widgets. You can write your own classes, implement your own widgets, you know, complex widgets. You can expand it. You can use frameworks. You could pull all of those resources in. Suddenly, you're able to deliver web applications that is a lot more complex than, you know, the average Joe, so to speak. Something you can put together something in a day that uh, a JavaScript developer might spend months on, uh, because it's modular. You know, we're using sort of the Delphi philosophy. So that's the cool part. Uh, the other aspect has to do, you know, with being able to write your own services and servers that are actually 100% platform agnostic completely. As you know, if you write it and it runs on Windows, it will also run on Linux or Mac as long as Node.js is installed. You know, you're home free. And once you get acquainted with you know, the tools, like, you know, that articles series I started on how to use PM2, for example, the process manager, which is a common tool in the JavaScript world, and it's available for every system. And suddenly you have an ecosystem for delivering complex applications that runs 100% on portable web technology. You don't have to, you know, think, oh, is that component available? Can I do this? Can I do that? If it works on one platform, you know it's going to work on the others, unless you're, you know, using some very specific modules for Linux only or something like that. You know, as long as you stick to standard RTL, uh, you know it's going to work. So that's the good thing. So yeah, okay, I'm just going to jump on this and keep on going and get this out today. We spent way too much time on this already. Okay, cheers.